Is now in Congress's court. It's taking a look at a $3.7 billion request by the White House to deal with the immigrants, including children, who've been crossing the U.S. southern border by the tens of thousands. Jeff Denham is a Republican congressman from California joining us right now. Sir, good to have you on the program. Thanks so much for joining us, Congressman.
Thank you. Good morning.
Now, you have stressed border control. What does border control look like? What kind of solutions can you offer to get our arms around this problem?
Well, border control looks something different across all of our different states. I just took a bipartisan group down to San Diego where we actually have the strongest border security because we've got two large cities, Tijuana and San Diego, that border against each other. You've got two sets of fences, you've got cameras, you've got motion detectors. They're detecting the tunnels. But we still saw people coming through the ports of entry asking for asylum. So even in the most secure areas, it's still going to take a solution that is far different from Texas, where people are just running across the border in the tens of thousands.
Well, the problem is so many of these children thought over the last couple of years that it was okay, that they could go to America and be part of the process, get processed, and ultimately become a taxpayer and a citizen.
Absolutely. I mean, this has been a problem for quite some time, but it has reached new magnitudes here in the last 6 to 8 months. Something the president should be focusing on because our problem will only get worse in the United States.
Congressman, stay right with us. We've got a lot to talk about with you, Jeff Denham. But first, we want to break down how we got to this immigration crisis point. Fox News senior correspondent Eric Shawn with that. Good morning, Eric.
Good morning, Maria, and good morning, everyone. It seems to be the cost of good intentions. The goal of saving young Central American children from human traffickers and drug cartels has instead turned into a mass, unstoppable wave of illegal immigration that has overwhelmed the federal government, strained localities, and is now spreading across the country. December 23, 2008, President George W. Bush signs the Trafficking Victims Protection Reauthorization Act, giving new legal protection to unaccompanied minors, except those from Mexico and Canada. It was supposed to curb child trafficking, but instead, say many, it enabled Central American parents from Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras especially, to pay smugglers to send their kids up north, and once here, they get an immigration hearing and stay with family. But others, including the Border Agent Union, blame President Obama. They cite the administration's so-called policy of catch and release for encouraging this illegal cascade. Just over 19,000 unaccompanied minor children were picked up in fiscal year 2009. Well, that has now jumped to 52,000 this year, and is projected to nearly triple. And in the mix, say authorities, are gang members.
This very dangerous, is probably the most dangerous international gang there is, MS-13.
Well, Investors Business Daily is blunt, saying, quote, Obama feeling that if Congress didn't give him the $3.7 billion he wants to deal with the border crisis, there was nothing he could do about it. Did Obama's pen suddenly run out of ink and his phone get disconnected? Such blatant and political contradictions would immediately land any Republican in boiling hot water. So why is Obama getting a free pass, it asks. And it turns out that polls show about 60% of Americans, well, they want the illegal sent back. But when they arrive here, they are given those court dates for immigration hearings, but that process, we're told, could take up to 2 years. The critics point out they commonly don't even bother to show up, and their absence makes their deportation, which the president is promising, nearly impossible. Maria?
All right, Eric, thanks very much. And we are back now with Congressman Jeff Denham of California. Congressman, let me ask you about that. First off, you have said you want to get rid of this catch and release program. What we haven't spoken about is the cost of all of this. We've been talking about this, of course, as a humanitarian crisis, which it is. But can you tally up what the cost of this is? Can America afford this?
We certainly can't afford it. I mean, we've been saying for quite some time that if we have full immigration reform, it will bring $1 trillion to our debt to help to reduce our debt. But this new problem, nobody's able to define it because it is so huge. We know what it's going to cost to fix our border. We know what it's going to cost to fix the court system so we can expedite the return of these immigrants. But when you're just releasing back into the community, whether it be with a parent documented or undocumented, or an aunt or an uncle, or even friends right now, and saying, come back and look at a court case 2 years from now. We don't know what the impact is to our schools, to our hospitals, to our community, or whether or not there could be some type of health epidemic that hits one of our communities or one of our schools once schools open again.
What's your timeline on this? Can you envision how this plays out over the coming years?
Well, certainly both parties have been very slow to react to immigration reform. This is a multi-generational issue now. It's gone over 3 decades, so I think we've got to address all aspects of immigration. But immediately, we've got a humanitarian crisis with a huge surge coming across not only the Texas border, but other parts of our border as well. So I think we've got to use this opportunity over the next couple weeks, secure our border, and then expedite the court system so that we can return these children back to their homes, back to their residences, and where we really have true asylum issues, where you can prove the ID, the birth certificate, know who these kids are, and what the challenges they're facing at home. Then this great nation, America, will provide asylum to the very neediest.
Can they really be deported? I mean, where are they in the time frame of that 2 years leading up to the trial, which Eric just reported?
Well, it depends. I mean, we are seeing more and more retention centers across the United States that continue to open, more military bases, more high school or church gymnasiums. I mean, so these retention centers are building in different states all across the country. We have an immediate opportunity to address those very, very quickly, triage the situation. But no, those that have already been released back into the community, ICE and Border Patrol are already overextended. I think it'll be very difficult to go back into different communities to try to address that. But we've got to address the immediate problem, and those are in retention centers. And those that are coming in today and may come in tomorrow, we need to actually stop that inflow.
So a humanitarian crisis, an economic crisis. Let me ask you, how vulnerable are the borders in terms of allowing in the bad actors of the world? How do we know, drug traffickers, terrorists are not coming in the way all of these children are?
More vulnerable than ever, because while we're seeing over 160,000 children that are expected to come over within the next year, that's still only 1/4 of the undocumented that are coming across the border. So the other 3/4 are exactly what you're saying. Drugs that may be coming across, terrorists that may be coming across, just those that are actually coming across to look for jobs and a better life. But that's, still is, while the children are a big issue because Border Patrol is spending the greatest amount of time catching and releasing and sending to retention centers, there's still over a 75% problem that's out there coming across other areas.
Congressman, are you expecting any movement on this before the midterm elections or before the end of President Obama's presidency?
I am. I expect both parties to work together on this. Certainly the Senate has sent us their bill. It's time for us to send them bills back. But what we can't ignore is what's happening right now today. We need to make sure that we are expediting the court system. That's going to take an appropriation. That's something the president can't do on his own. And we have to have border security. Those two things we have to get done immediately. And hopefully some of the other reforms will follow so that we can address our internal problem. But right now we've got to address the external problem coming across our border in huge amounts.
All right, Congressman, we'll be watching. Thanks very much for weighing in.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
We will see you soon.